Hi, good evening all. We shall begin in 2 minutes, please. Hi, good evening all. I hope I'm audible to all. Can someone confirm in the chat if they're able to listen to me? Mr. Mayur, can you help me? Yes, thank you so much. Thank you. So this is the energy I was looking forward to. Absolutely remarkable. I mean, the topic itself is so interesting, and we welcome you all for this lovely session. And as much as the topic, the speaker himself is so knowledgeable to share his insights into all the details of what exactly is the supply chain values and its visibility, how we should be focusing, where you should be focusing, and what are the nuances of it. So before we get into the topic, let me start with the standard introduction. My name is Rao, popularly known as Rao, but my full name is R.V. Srinivas Rao. And yes, I'm the chairperson for the CIPS Qatar branch, along with other committee members. Mr. Badar is the vice chair, Ms. Pooja, Mr. Santosh, Mr. Manoj, Mr. Asif, of course, we and Mr. Subhan as well. We are the committee members who got elected, and we've been running the branch for the last 3 years. And going further in December, there will be elections, and people who are interested in volunteering for any of these activities are welcome to join us. And there'll be separate emails. So whatever emails we register in these events, all of them are used to check out in case if they're interested in volunteering for this particular branch. And about that Qatar branch, I don't want to come across with the details. Now we are with MENA branch, we are associated with MENA, and these events are jointly sponsored by Qatar Development Bank, which is popularly known as QDB, supporting the localization and also the SME activities. QDB, as many people know, this is a wing of Ministry of Finance, actively supporting the local companies or the corporations who are into manufacturing within the state of Qatar. So we strongly encourage that, buy local is the motto for all of us. And not that I'm with Qatar Airways, but all the major companies in Qatar, they are trying to source it locally itself. And especially after all the incidents, what we have in the blockade we had and the pandemics we are facing through, building up the store's inventory and bringing up through across the world and the logistics and sea freight, it becomes a major issue for us. So we have to build an inventory. Rather than that, in case if we are able to source the product locally, if we are unable to source, we can develop the suppliers locally, then it's really helpful for all of us. So thanks to QDB for encouraging the local suppliers, and we totally support the localization. It is good for the economical growth of state of Qatar as well. So that's about the QDB. And my other committee members and myself, we are volunteers for it. We have our day jobs. I work for Qatar Airways. So Mr. Badruddin, he works for Primary Healthcare Corporation. Mr. Subhan is Qatar Airways. Ms. Pooja works for FMM. Mr. Manoj works for RasGas. So, and Mr. Asif works for Qatar Airways as well. So all of us, we have our day jobs, but it's only our passion. So we are here running the branch, and we conduct these knowledge sharing sessions to provide you the insights. So as I always say that, rather than going and reading a book, one such session for an hour, it really gives you all the gist of that particular book or a topic. And today it's one such topic. It's enhancing procurement supply chain values and visibility. Visibility is the key for us to take any actions into it, or make some corrective actions or remedial actions, or proceed whichever way we want to. If you want to try to optimize, first is to gain the visibility. And that's the topic for today. I'll not take much of your time. And to introduce the speaker, Mr. Rahul Aliyev is a fellow of the CIPS. He has been with Shell and other major corporations. And he's also an ex-chairperson for the CIPS. In fact, I succeeded him. Thank you, Rahul, and thanks that you're back into Doha. And we'd like to hear more from you. I hand over now to Mr. Rahul. Rahul, can you please?
Good evening. Thank you very much, Rahul, for this pleasant introduction. I much appreciate. And honestly, I was missing this audience, and I was just sharing with Rahul. It's unfortunate that I cannot see you all. I cannot feel the energy of the auditorium. I believe between the joiners there are who had our joint session before, and I'm sure it's amazing feeling when you see the people live and you have an eye contact, you virtually see the energy that comes from the auditorium. Unfortunately, we don't have this luxury, and I only hope that this old good times will be back soon. But having said that, and thanks to technology, we can have this session. As Rao mentioned, it's key to transfer the knowledge. It's key to exchange the knowledge. And by this means, the CIPS MENA and QDB giving the unique opportunity for us to connect with you and have a chance to share the experience that we have from the various projects that we did in the Middle East, worldwide. And at the same time, definitely have a feedback from you colleagues to hear what is the modern practice of supply chain management is, whereas we're going to talk about the visibility. And in this sense, it's crucial to our profession that we maintain this visibility. And having said that, this is what identifies and positions our role within any corporation as we are. So it's a really good topic. Thank you very much for choosing that. I appreciate help from the support from the CIPS and Qatar branch in particular. Rao, my thanks, sincere thanks for choosing this topic and allow me to share my thoughts on this subject. And of course, I'll be very, very glad to hear your questions and comments back at the end of the presentation. Right. So we're here just to go.
Rahul, I'll interrupt you for a second if you don't mind. We've got a chat box, we've got a question and answer box. We've got both of them. So whenever you have a question, I would request you all members, attendees, please raise your question in your Q&A box, and certainly, yes, we will answer them after the event. And Mr. Rahul is kind enough, he's already agreed to spare 15 to 20 minutes only for answering the questions. So without wasting much time, Mr. Rahul, sorry, please, over to you.
No problem. Right. First of all, I would like to start with the vision that I had on the first slide, if you don't mind, Rahul, to show this. I was thinking, let's go through the concept. You're right. I will share the first on the visibility concept. what it stands in the behind of the visibility. Of course, everybody has their own definition for the visibility of our professions. And then I was thinking through and I'm brainstorming myself about what's the best way to transfer this at a helicopter view. I like this approach. I like to give it one page, just generalize the approach of the information instead of putting too much background of the theory. And then, of course, touch base, the very important, how to say, major highlighting aspects of the visibility that built in. And there are a lot. Definitely, colleagues, you will come back to say that, yes, there are a lot, you're missing something. And of course, they are. But I picked it up only points that will help me to illustrate the importance of the visibility in our professions, because there are many techniques that are clear to us, but not clear to our stakeholders, to our and internal customer and our audience. So this is important. One of the aspects, and again, it's a negotiation. This is how we deliver the value to the company. We ensure specifically to oil business, we're reducing the lifting cost by this means. And again, very important how the supplier perceives. And at the end of this, again, this is not a recommendation. Don't take it as the roadmap. Don't take it as the, how to say, guidance or anything. This is just the best practice from my end to share with you, colleagues. And again, feel free to ask the questions to clarify, but this is how I would summarize to having the importance of this aspect and how it will deliver the benefits to your own professions. Right. Now, if you can go to the next slide, please. Right. Okay. What I want to just answer the question, why the visibility is important, and streamline the imagination that came to my mind with the simple shopping that we go to the groceries. Okay, we put a lot of items in it, and this is sometimes we ask the question why it's empty, why it's not empty, or it's filled. Is it filled with the right products? Is it overfilled? Is it enough? Is it enough to carry out? And that's why it illustrates for me the supply chain. Sometimes it was a trolley that you go for the shopping. And it's linked to the importance, growing responsibility of the business, to the social responsibility, to the local content development, as QDB is stating now. And the same sense is the ICV and local content. And having said that, this is how the visibility of the supply chain is addressed. And this is how we deliver the business to our internal customers. And that will help us to avoid the complexities of the modern life. The last year clearly showed the interdependence of the corporate from the supply chain. And it's not only delayed project nowadays. It's not only means the deadlines. It's a real life of the people who depending on the simple supplies of oxygens, masks, and vaccination at this time. And this now it's crucial nowadays because it will count to the life. So that's why it's important to ensure these aspects and deliver the successful supply chain management within your own organization, whereas you can add the value and ensure that you defend your visibility, because I'm sure you're visible, but how you maintain it, how you do it structurally, it's a different aspect. I'm sure you do, but within today's session, we will try to give you general view how we perceived, how we had this experience with a similar subject, and of course, listen your feedback. You can go to the next slide. Right, this is my famous approach to the when I was asked to describe anything, the helicopter view. Right, what are the major factors of the supply chain visibility? What are the contributors? Again, my dear colleagues, you will say there are a lot, and there are indeed a lot, but I outline three major areas where you can illustrate, and there will be bold items to show the best practice and the competitive advantage and positioning of your function within the corporation. And let's start with the demand planning and strategies. Sometimes when you ask this question, you always faced with straightforward questions: how we can do it, what is the tactics, how we can generate the demand planning. We don't know, the project are coming and eventually, and there's a firefighting. Absolutely correct. But however, there are key interfaces and practices how you can position this important factor within the organizations. First of all, supply chain could be linked to the joint operating agreements with the oil companies. With other segments, it could be different. And again, from the contractual perspective, you can build into entire negotiation strategy with the overall company's positioning. How to do that? I'll give you a simple example. How often you negotiate the terms and conditions and you ended up with a success, you signed a contract. When you go back to the same supplier, you face the same round, or your colleagues the same round. Simple answer is that to build up the, for example, a database of the lesson learned with this particular vendor. So that will help you to ensure that you save the knowledge and you transfer, you know the approach, and you know the MDOs within a certain supplier, and you can tackle it. And at the end of the day, of course, deliver what? Savings. You can deliver the best practices to the company, and of course, learn from the suppliers. Second, the processes. You managing the supply chain with the help of the process. It's impossible to ensure that the supply chain is managed without the process and procedures. But how they position, how to maintain, it's important. And again, with this sense, RACI is important to ensure that that is well managed. Without RACI, you cannot manage the whole process, because you will not know who is responsible, and you cannot manage overall process with yourself. And you have to chime in to the end customer who will be your duet. In my organization, we call them duet, and a musician and knows this perfectly that if a duet, two parties are performing. And in this case, RACI, sharing the accountability, controls, and information is crucial. And again, another bullet, you can see the organizational training. And in this sense, thanks to CIPS, you're getting the free of charge training or practicing for your career succession and the success of your supply chain organizations. And of course, measurement and monitoring is important. Warehouse and inventory management. One of my CNP managers back in the British Petroleum, the first thing that he touched, he took the coverall and went to the warehouse. When we asked this, he said, the warehouse within the supply chain function is a quick win to illustrate and find the gaps and to demonstrate to the management. Because within the specific oil business, and of course the retail business, the warehouse and stock retail management is crucial. Imagine it, going back to the trolley example, how it's crucial to maintain within the Carrefour and other monoprix. Same with the oil and gas businesses. It's important to monitor. It's important to maintain proper stock values. So your organization always have the required resources. However, doesn't overspend to maintaining the big stock values and ensuring that you add the value to the business. If you can go to the next slide. Right. I promised to illustrate the total cost of ownership. Right. To my view, sometimes our end users see they just purchased the top of the iceberg. There are a lot of elements that we're interfacing and dealing with, but you're not aware. And this is where the second aspect of my helicopter view can help you to ensure that they're all visible, they're all communicated. And in a sense, it should be service level agreement that you fixed with your internal customer, so they can see that you perceive the backside of the iceberg, whereas it's important to maintain this visibility, good relations with your internal customers, so you can address this point. And of course, let them help you. you should not tackle all the tasks yourself and ensuring that you are alone. However, it's organizational effort and you're sharing the responsibility. So that's important. Can go next slide. Yes. Again, how we can address these challenges. You have to have clear vision and strategy. And within this, you have to develop. Again, I talked a lot about the customers. And again, people hiring, interviewing should be properly organized with a matrix to do selections, constant learning and development, and business processes. And again, lean process is important. Reviewing we will come back to this final recommendation, reviewing and ensuring that the processes are clear, they're not overloaded. However, they are adapted to the changing the environment is crucial. So you can provide a continuous improvement instead of you just focusing on the one edge and you're not moving forward. It is really important to ensure that when we receive these suggestions, I had an experience where my manager said, I want any ideas from supply chain, from C&P, even if you say, I want this candy box, please come and provide it to me. There are no stupid suggestions. So that was important that I received the message that people have to provide the messages. Of course, that brings you to responsibility. Of course, nobody will put the suggestion, put the candy box. You have to think so. But it puts responsibility on you, not only deal with the firefighting, not only deal with the daily job, but think in a innovative way how you can add value to your organization. And by this mean, how you are visible to your organizations. Because if you're not visible, the people taking granted your achievements. Negotiation is another aspect. How many times you've seen the request, let's receive discount? It's not the same. There are structured approach. I'm giving you just schematics view of the process that I applied throughout of my career, slicing down the negotiation process to the different layers, to ensuring that techniques apply to the at each round, ensuring that you attract enough resources, you attract the experts at to the negotiation levels, whereas you increase the percentage and whereas you're targeting to getting the best outcome. So this is how you can illustrate on the rounds. Of course, you can extend it to the more rounds and add more aspect onto it. It up to you. You designing, but this is general sketch that we apply because negotiation itself is a different topic that we can spend 2-3 sessions just on its own. However, this is one of your toolbox that you empowered with your own organization to use to the benefit of your company and make sure that you bring the profit, you add value to the business where you're operating as a supply chain expert. And again, important part of this puzzle are the suppliers. I'm using the same paradigm to reflect the supplier relations. You probably acknowledge and aware about the crouch model, and I try to translate to the very simple mode of the supplier relation that you built in with the help of the same model based on the demand and value to the business, where you developing different roles of the relations. But sometimes, how many times you've seen that you can have a low spend supplier, but value to the business is high. I'll give you a very simple example. Sometimes these window cleaners in the high-rise buildings are very important and they are high-risk business that you do. Of course, comparing to the drilling and EPC operations, of course, is a different matter. But lives of the people are matter. And sometimes signing the contract, it shouldn't be just giving for the granted because you're reviewing the importance of the risk that they're adding to the business. And it could have been low cost, but very risky and value adding. And there are non-critical, sometimes you check it as a critical, but however, you're adding the high risk, and that's why you have to leverage. Yes, of course, for low risk and low demand items like session, of course, you don't spend time negotiating a supplier position. You don't invest such amount of your time on this one. However, these models will help you to position, put the bubbles around this matrix and put the position. And this is where you prioritize the supply management. And out of this supply management, you deliver to the value of your company where you operate. Because purely managed contracts, purely managed suppliers will destroy the nice work that you contributed during the call for tender process. And that will make sure, ensure that you get best output from your relations that you build in with the supplier. Right, this is the quick summary of visibility best practices. You have to establish governing council. It's talking about the controls. You can add finance, you can add the operations. It should be joint decisions over the positioning of your organization and within the corporate business. And again, align the staff, take the best of the technologies using Ariba and other sourcing tools. Well, negotiation is very important, but it linked it with the strategic sourcing. Supplier alliances is very crucial. Make sure that suppliers are the partners, not are in fact, the suppliers or vendors. Treat them as a suppliers. Of course, remember the crouch model. Make sure that you allocate resources to high value and high risk, or low value but high risk suppliers. And again, we talked a lot about the process and controls. Race is a crucial. Compliance and risk. This is where you add the visibility to your organization, because you are managing third-party spend within your organization. And again, inventory, we talked about this. And again, social responsibility, green initiatives are important and coming, and can cause a lot of questions from the countries where you operate. Local content development is important, and I believe we have colleagues from Qatar Development Bank who joined it, and it can provide far more information on that field. But in my area where I operate now, ICB is part of any tenders you have to comply with, ensure that you link with the tool team, with the government managed program and required. And in fact, this is law of Qatar. Again, these are not recommendations. This is just a summary and food for thought for you to take away. And again, after this session, refresh it with yourself, define whether you want your organization to shine and be positioned in the corporate business where you are, or you want this profession to die within the 50 years. Because I want my son, he is 8 years old, when he grows up and asks, Daddy, what is your profession? I would, with pride, and say, I'm supply chain management expert or specialist. I don't want to say that this profession has disappeared, like a dinosaur in my background, a small figure of dinosaur will disappear. And this is in your hands to do that. And in order to do that, we're using this beautiful tool of the communicating through the CIPS, where you have unique opportunity to access the live knowledge. Theory is available on the internet, on YouTube. You have various channels of the knowledge. The information that you're getting throughout this week, the information from the people who spent more than 10 years within these professions. They've seen these various situations, and they're happy to share it with you. I think that summarized my presentation, Rao. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, I think we've left only one slide. Yeah, again, don't stop at this stage. Apply the continuous improvement. Simple as that. You know the part of this circle. I'm not going to stop on this one. It's very important not only build this visibility concept, but develop it and apply the changing environment. This is very important. Okay, I think that summarized my session. I hope I didn't take too much of your time. We still have time for the questions. And again, I welcome. Please, I would love to hear your feedback. Rao, thank you very much for helping with the presentation. I hope my voice was clear. And again, excuse me if I was running a bit fast or I was too academic. This is all related to the technology. Again, I would love to have this live session to see you all, but again, thanking the CIPS and the panel and Rao and all the team in Qatar for CIPS to arranging this nice event. And I would like to hear your feedback, questions, and please feel free. I'm at your disposal.
Thank you so much, Rahul. In fact, you just went on in one breath now. You're wondering,
Rao,
we should give you a break.
Pardon, Rao. I think I have a problem. I cannot hear you. Can you hear me, Rao?
Yes, Rahul, we can hear you.
Okay, something wrong with my
Okay, I've got two questions already here. I'm going to stop sharing this particular presentation, and now we will take the question. So let's go with the question answer. And I've seen someone has raised hand. May I kindly request that they type the question so that it'll be on record and we can answer you easily. So let's take the question answer.
Rao, beg your pardon. Something wrong with the voice.
Okay, would you like to rejoin Rahul while I just engage them with the Q&A?
Shall I rejoin the session, Rao?
Yeah, that's what I'm sending you a message. If you could please rejoin.
Maybe I'll leave and rejoin.
Okay, until Mr. Rahul joins, thank you all for listening patiently towards the very informative topic. Okay, we'll go one by one in the questions. I've got a question from the anonymous attendee. When you say localization within Qatar, it means resources, human or materials. If people, do you think the locals are competent enough to replace the expats? Please convince. I think this is an understatement. Trying to compare it with the others and all. Definitely, yes. Locals are not only competent, I think they are better than the expatriates. And we have seen it. We've seen the progress coming through on the products that have been developed. Clear example is Baladna. When everything else failed, we can see Baladna coming and taking over when you didn't have the milk coming in from the other side of the border. So I think when we consume a Baladna product, I think we should not be asking the question whether about the competency and all. So I hope that answers. And I've got one more question here from the anonymous attendee. Rahul, you have joined. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, now I can hear. Excuse for that one. I'm not used to the Zoom. I'm sorry for that one.
Okay, the second question.
Apologize for the technical problems. Yes. What was the question, if I may ask?
Okay, the question, since you emphasized on lean, please let us know how can you lean the entire tendering process for $1 million contract. I've taken a lesser value as an example.
Okay. Right, very good question. Lean itself is a technology that's coming from the Japan quality industry. You probably know that, right? Within the tendering process, of course, you have to define the outcome. You have to see the end process. So if you don't see the end process, what do you want to achieve? How the situation will change with the $1 million tender process. So you have to see the end goal first, and then whereas you have to remove the waste within the process. Okay, whether you want to remove the reduce the time circling of the tender, whether you want to achieve the saving out of this tender, or you want to maintain the quality, probably everything. That's how you design your tender. You build up the strategy, you go to the partner and approve it, and within this you can propose the opportunities. For example, communication, you can reduce the time for the communications. Lean, another technology I mentioned in my presentation, you can do it through Ariba or GEP function. whereas you can receive the answers, accumulate them instead of opening them physically. You can accumulate them within the portal and have answers. Another option may be reverse auctions. You will see how market reacts to it. With the use of reverse auction, we managed to achieve more than 10% reductions of the total cost. I wouldn't say price, total cost of the ownership. Sometimes where you finish the tender, suppliers coming up, I would give you a lower price. Why you didn't ask? Why you didn't give the opportunity? So within this reverse auction, you can make your process lean and deliver the values for the organization where you operate. So, but the main thing, you have to see where you start and where do you want to arrive. Without this, you won't be able to apply the lean process to the tendering process in particular. I believe that was the question. If you can see entire process, and of course, taking simple, for the $1 million, you want to build a terminal, and you can visually see this terminal, see how the road will be built up to this terminal, what other suppliers will be. Where you build a strategy, you can see the waste that blocking the same tenders. And then by this one, you can remove and pull out this blocking points and introduce that lean process to the tendering. Again, I don't want to touch the theory, the Ginsburg, and people are well educated. I want to just to take the life examples that we applied. And again, we can discuss this for another session, applying the lesson learned. And again, in the presentation, there is a summary how you can apply to ensuring the waste from the process and where you can apply lean tactics to doing the business within the supply chain organization. Hope that was clear.
Thank you, Raul. I have a next question here. It's from Mikhail Dian. How do I conduct a supplier perception analysis?
Perception analysis, I would love to just to get a bit of clarity. What kind of perception? The supplier positioning is different, supplier evaluation is different, supplier monitoring is different, supplier management is different. So I'm a little bit struggling to understand perception.
Yeah,
perception of them also, perception also. So a good question, but I would like to get more from the gentleman who asked this question.
I think it is in relation to the project model.
Yes.
So they would like to understand how to.
Okay, right. Okay. I think my respected colleagues is asking where the supplier sees us. So he wanted to flip the project model. Very good question. Right. In this sense, just to ask how they position you. For example, if you take the tendering with a big OEM, take, I don't know, Emerson, ABB, how important are you, is your organization in their list? Are you delivering, for example, 70% of their income? Is there any other project that are linked with your partners? For example, when I operate, and again, from my organization, I always work with all companies, and I can see that there are ongoing projects for the same product in their region. So in this case, I'm trying to aggregate. And then in this sense, the perception is increased. So they're treating us as the top customer in this sense. But this is very important. It's a good question. How it's important to find out how they evaluate your in their product list. And sometimes you may be surprised, you are a big organization, but you're on.
Sorry, Raul, we can't hear you. Something is wrong with the audio. Raul, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Now we could hear you, but it was very low.
Can I reconnect again?
Please. We are sorry for the technical glitch. Just give us 2 minutes. Mr. Raul will be joining back quickly. And in between, I've seen one small comment. One of the gentlemen, Mr. Suresh Keshavan, I want to be volunteer. I'm from India. If you are in Qatar, you're most welcome to join. Always welcome, and more the merrier for us. And definitely, yes, I hope you're not in India. You are from India, but if you're in Qatar,
Yeah.
please write to us.
Yes, I can hear you again. Sorry
Yes,
about that.
Please.
Yeah, I hope I addressed the question.
Thank you so much, Rahul. Thanks for asking. The next question is from anonymous attendee. Give examples of green initiatives that you have taken in supply chain which can help us.
Right. First of all, you have to imply a green requirement within your call for tender. The same way that you do there is a social responsibility, like avoiding the labor child or anything. The same way with the Kyoto protocols are being crucial to the tendering process that you're doing for the emissions, and they're producing the green way. They're not, how to say, the business that they operate. For example, very good, like, okay, best example I can give, the outboard water management. Whereas we provide the requirement for the EPCIC, we give the requirement how much they will be outboarding the water to the sea. And at the same time, when you do the drilling, how they will manage the drill cut, how the waste management will be managed, where the waste will be accumulated, how they're gonna get this managed, what are the requirements. So we're not simply saying, again, coming back to $1 million equation, build a house. We're interested how they're gonna manage the waste, for example. So this is one of the examples how with your particular activities, you can manage the waste and you can deal with this. Hello?
Thank you, Rahul. This is clear. Now I have one more question from Susan Hamude. This is a long question. Let me read it out for you. Thank you. Excellent presentation, and like the slide, so concise and full of information. Thank you. For lean processes, are there any references to evaluate acceptable percentage of write-off to total stock value or turnover? Percentage of write-off to stock turnover, we reduce stock held since stock is a liability to a certain extent. Of course, we do agree, but nonetheless, we will have waste items. Are there financial references for acceptable limits?
Rao, I'm afraid the different organizations have their own acceptable limits. There is no unique answer. I cannot give you maintain min-max levels and barcoding for the 10%, 15%. I might be speculating. Every company, every organization, again, my famous references, Carrefour and oil company. Carrefour should operate at virtually zero stock because they're operating on the Japanese industry, Taguchi. It came here, it has the expiry date very quick. If you pick up one with expiry, it's a shame to the overall Carrefour organization. You can take it and they will ask for excuses. But within the oil operating organization, we're struggling again to maintain the surplus stock and to reduce it. So therefore, it's a difference. We cannot give the unique, definition. There are methodologies to measure that, but however, it's a different organization to organization. And probably you can give the more example from the air industry, like Qatar Airways. It's completely different from the organization to organization. But what advice I can give, and I'm glad that this gentleman is concerned with this topic. He can address it to this end customer and set up the session with them to maintain the acceptable min-max levels. But again, please take care, very careful evaluation of the industry where you operate from.
You're absolutely correct. Thank you so much for that, because it depends on the organization and the area of operation. As you rightly said, if I'm looking at the airline, for us, operations is totally different, and beg, borrow, or steal, you need the parts when it comes to the aircraft. Now, I cannot apply the same thing for the non-operational goods. Like if I don't have the station, aircraft is not going to get on ground. Suppose it's the same thing if I'm with Dubai Aluminum Company, where I worked in the past. Now, for them, the operation is very important. You don't want aluminum ingots to be frozen over there in the pot cells. So type of the operation defines the benchmarking or internal acceptance limit. However, if you want to see what exactly happens here, you can refer to the Qatar tender laws. Qatar tender laws are a central committee in Qatar. They've got some details saying that what is acceptable limits and how it could be handled across. Thank you so much. That handles. I hope that answers the question. Now we'll go to the next one. A very interesting one. When am I supposed to do the supplier appraisal?
Okay, you are ultimate person to define that. Again, if you're asking my personal experience, use the Kralchik model. Again, the famous options. First of all, you have to position your supplier. Okay, it's a high risk, high spend, yes. Then you have to make a frequent, for example, in EPCIC and contracts, post-contract management, we do the weekly review, we do the weekly interface. But do you want to interface to the stationary supply every week? Definitely not. It doesn't waste of your time. You set up frame agreement, you put all the steps, it's operating itself. For the strategic high-risk contracts, you do the frequent reviews, and then as it's progress, you can shift to the quarterly meetings and others. But you are driving this process. The only answer, the only suggestion we can give, use the model to first position your supplier, and based on this, define how much time and resource you have to allocate for the supply management and of course monitoring performance.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Rahul. And also I would like to add that many organizations, believe you me, we were also a little lazy when I was working in other organizations, not here. You do the appraisal at the time of registration. After that, people tend to forget it. But it should be a continuous activity that there is a supplier relation department which goes into, which updates it. And then it has a cascading impact on the RFQs being released also. Let us say there's been a change in the management over there and the person who was receiving the RFQs has left the organization. And every time a buyer is triggering an RFQ, you're not getting a response. And then at the end of the day, when you run the analytics at the end of the year, you say, okay, X supplier, we sent 25 RFQs, they responded 2 and 23, they did not respond. But was there a chance that someone went in and checked, is that, are you receiving an RFQ or not? Or did someone update the records? So at the time of registration, I mean, you all would agree that we gather a lot of documents, the registration document, the trade license, X, Y, and Z document, which has got certain validity. So it should become a continuous process here. So supplier appraisal, when we're saying it, looking at the entire thing, saying that if they have participated and not won any tenders, it should not come to a stage where supplier would say, oh, X company, I don't want to participate, I never win a tender. That discussion has to be open without revealing the facts. At least some high level discussion when they happen, that the relation continues. And as we say, it's not just one time. We sitting out in a very royally and say that, okay, I'm the purchaser, you are the buyer, I'm going to dictate terms. It doesn't work out. Those are the old days. Now things have changed. We need these suppliers together. And as I was telling you at the beginning of it, saying that we have seen several disruptions. Imagine what would have happened in a blockage situation. Imagine the time of pandemic when our reliance is on the Far East and everything closed down there. How did we run across? How did we source it? So that's what the relation helps. Supply relation is very, very essential. And all of us, even including me, including myself and our colleagues who are there on this particular panel, I can say not only panel, out of the attendees as well. There are so many professionals here. Thank you so much for it. I'm sure you will agree on to the point we are saying that suppliers should not be treated like anybody else. Although it is a buyer-seller relationship, but we need to enhance it further, taking it to a next level. I hope that answers. We have a question from Ravi Kumar Narayanan. How does value chain differ from supply chain?
Right, it's a more of academic question. The supply chain, I think, end-to-end process, how you get the, if I answered it quickly, how you optimize market capabilities to the end customer. The value chain, whereas on the process of this, and I think we have one slide in the background, if we can show this, if you don't mind, Rao. We have a slide demonstrating the value chain and the backup.
I will just check out. Yes, we do have it.
Yeah, if you don't mind, just show this one. There's one slide just demonstrating the value chain.
Can you see this now?
Yeah. Yes, I can see. Sure.
This is the value chain.
Yeah, I hope that's clear. Okay, the product, customer, the process in between, how you define that. Whereas supply chain is different, it consists of different layers that you do there. Okay, so this is the, and I don't know, maybe this gentleman was reading, I was reading his mind, it has exact answer what the supply chain represents, what is the value chain. So I think that's clear.
Thank you so much, Raul. I think the slide is very clear.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Now we've got a couple of more questions. I think I'll take the first one. Anonymous attorney, can you guide how do I join Asia CIPS group if there is any? We have got representation from CIPS MENA. Mr. Hariharan is here, who is also an expert in the entire supply chain, is also from the CIPS MENA office. Maybe Mr. Hari will guide you on that. Mr. Hari, is it possible for you to?
Good afternoon, Srini. I'm really loving the answers being given by Rahul. I think something wonderful, and I think quite a few answers which you gave also is so inquisitively great. I mean, specifically when you spoke about the supplier appraisals, I think those are some of the very simple key features which even some of the great professionals forget to endorse it when we do day to day. Thanks so much. Actually, I'm sorry also for joining late. I've been in the office, just left. Okay, quickly on the joining of CIPS, I think one thing is that you can always write back to CIPS. That's one thing. Second thing is you can just log on to the CIPS website, cips.org, and right on the top there is a joining link. So you can always join that, or otherwise you can just write an email to Mr. Srinivas, who is also a fellow member and also a prestigious fellow of the CIPS. So you can always write back to us, and we would be able to support on that. Also, once you join the CIPS, or even if you want to connect to the Asian CIPS, which is currently based in Singapore. So again, right now I don't have the links in front of me, but on the CIPS website, you will also find the CIPS Singapore branches, which extends to the Asia CIPS groups. I hope that answers Rao Garu.
Yes, sir, that is absolutely fine. Thank you so much. Also, what I'm doing is that simultaneously, I'm typing in a chat box so that people can get this email ID. It is qatar@cipsbranch.org. Any assistance you need,
great. Yeah,
you can get in touch with us. And I've seen some messages from Mr. Mike Anwana, who is a very ardent supporter of the CIPS and also is our ex-chairman and fellow of the CIPS again. Mike recommends, I also recommend more comprehensive method of supplier management rather than supplier appraisal. Mike, you are spot on. It is not just one-time appraisal, one-time evaluation, but whereas it should be managed effectively. We totally agree with you, Mike. Thank you so much for your insight. And Mike has also made a comment here. Environmental management is now integral part of responsible procurement. Exactly correct. When we talk of the sustainability and CSR, corporate social responsibility, no, it is a continuous process and it's changed the mindset of the people. Global warming, as we all hear, right? It's been spoken. And we have seen the very famous Greta, who made a statement, how dare you? So definitely, yes, that has shaken many people. It really shook them. People are thinking it's not only individuals, the corporates have certainly come across. As part of the CSR, localization is also a part of it, and that's one of the most inquiring. Yes, there is a lot of emphasis to go for the local, and many people they call it global. No, local, locally present but globally available. So we'll also look for the local things. I've got one more comment here. Okay, that's compliment. Thanks, Rao, and thanks, Rahul. So that's great. I think I don't see any more questions. If there are any more questions, please do advise before we wrap up the session. Okay, I think there is a comment, Mr. Ravi Kumar. SRM is identifying all interactions with key suppliers and managing them. Yeah, that's more of a statement. If there's any question, please do advise. Mr. Suresh Keshavan wants share the Singapore CIPS email. Okay, you can write to the email which I mentioned, and definitely yes, we'll get back to you on that. Mr. Ravi Kumar, that's more of a statement. If you would like any questions with regards to the SRM, please do advise. You can raise the question here. Okay, I think no news is good news, Rahul. Last 1 hour have been pretty insightful into the entire details of what the supply chain significance is and how we are going ahead with it. Thank you so much for your valuable time in preparing and giving us the insightful details and the knowledge what you have shared. As we said, rather than reading a book over 3 days, it's good to attend one session for an hour and we grasp the same detail.
And what I can assure you, I tried to avoid from the theory and academic things that maybe I use, such as project model. The rest is just my view and life experience that I have. And again, thank you for the very interesting questions. Thank you for your time and appreciate. And it's pity that I cannot see you all. I cannot see the feedback from my colleagues. But I feel that time was useful, and I think we managed it well. It's exactly 1 hour that we had demonstrated good time management. And again, it's a late evening, but I'm thanking the people who took their personal time to join to the sessions. And again, door is always open. We have email of Mr. Rao. Send your comments to the CIPS. We're here to support you in your profession because your success is our success. And at the end, just remember the dinosaur. We don't want to disappear in the world. I think it's in the background. So make sure that it's on your table. Remember that. In order to do that, we need to develop, we need to change, we need to adapt to the realities.
Thank you so much, Raul. And I've got a comment from Sultan Kaya. I'm sorry I attended very late due to my unexpected meeting. We all are in the same group. We are joined the club. Can you please share the presentation if it is possible? I can share you the link to the recording, which will be made available by the CIPS MENA office. And definitely, yes, you can write to us. You're there, you're connected with us. Even on the WhatsApp also is fine, or we'll send it to you on the email. I think I would like to express special thanks to Mr. Rahul. Thank you, Mr. Hari, for joining. We had Ms. Dana also, who set up this particular event. But most importantly, Mike, thanks for coming in. I truly appreciate your inputs. Mr. Santosh, good you could attend it. Mr. Darshan, thank you. Mr. Darshan is the one leading the MIS section, so he totally needs to get.
Greetings to CIPS Qatar, by the way. I'm missing you all.
Thanks, Mr. Govind Habib. Josh, good to have you here. Very nice. Makarajyoti Gogula, welcome. Of course, although you're a new member, you did get time to attend the session. Kamran, thank you for attending. Mr. Manoj, we truly appreciate your support. Mr. Mayur, thank you. And we've got Mohammed Sarwar. Miss Muna, of course. Muna, thanks for taking time, Muna, for attending. I know you've been busy. That's absolutely fine. Mr. Ramesh Sridhar, we really like the quotes which you sent, Mr. Ramesh. Please keep motivating us. Mr. Rashad Hasavi, Mr. Ravi Kumar Narayan, you've been very interactive. Please do continue. Ms. Shabana, thank you. Sultan, although you did join, you didn't miss anything. We will definitely share you the recording of it. Mr. Zafar Aziz Khan, thank you so much for it. And with that, we'll conclude the session. And before concluding, let me tell you that myself and the other committee members, we have got our full-time jobs. It's only a passion that we are volunteering for these activities and sharing the knowledge. If anyone would like to apply for any positions, there will be elections coming shortly. You can write to the email ID which I've mentioned here. It is qatar@cipsbranch.org. With that, I would like to thank you all again, and thanks to our sponsor, Qatar Development Bank.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Have a good evening, and I hope to see you soon again. Thank you. Bye. I'm over here.